I'll get them both, it'll be double. Okay. Yeah, okay. Good morning. I'd like to open up the special meeting, August 30th, 2023. I show the time at 10:08, and I show we are all here except for Wayne, so we have a quorum. First up, I want to, no one's considering council things, call to order, adoption of the agenda, right into that. Do we have any changes?
No.
No, okay. I need a motion to, I usually go to you for
I know,
that.
sorry. No changes.
All right, I'll need the adoption of the agenda as stated.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we have items of discussion of Tom Short Road agreements with Amber Meadows and Tullamore in consideration of red line revisions and with cost share to address sidewalk disrepair. All right. Who's taking this?
I'll take it.
All right.
So we are here today, I didn't print out my memo, but I provided a very detailed background in your agenda packets if you've had a chance to read those. For the last probably 2 years, we've been dealing with some sidewalk issues that are on Tom Short Road. More recently, we were requested to make some repairs on these sidewalks. I think it was by one of the HOAs or by a resident of the HOA. Since that time, we have kind of investigated whose responsibility it is, what agreements we have in place to make the necessary repairs. We have discovered some agreements that we believe that Amber Meadows and a small portion of Tullamore are responsible for making those sidewalk repairs, and so therefore we have been back and forth with the HOA representatives over the last couple of months trying to come to a solution, an agreement. They have presented some opportunities for changes to the current agreements that we have in place. At the same time, we have since got around 17 panels of the most hazardous sidewalks replaced from the county that directly abuts their sewer access point. And so we're still looking at probably another 15 to 20 repairs that need to be made that are tripping hazards. Again, we've gone back and forth over the last couple of months to really no resolution. So we're here today to hear from the HOAs, to hear what their problems are with the agreement, and then hopefully come to some type of solution as to what modifications we're going to make to these agreements and how we're going to address the most immediate issue, which is the sidewalks. So if you wanted to give the HOAs the opportunity to say a few words, they can do that, and then we would just ask that y'all go into closed session so that Chaplain can advise you on some of the agreement terminology.
Council's okay with that?
Do you have anything?
Gary? Or whoever wants to start?
Come on down.
Is it though? Is it though? Is the price right? Exactly, yeah.
Nah, it's on screen. Is that better? There we go. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. And thank you first for allowing us the opportunity, calling a special meeting and allowing us a few minutes to talk to you about this. And by the way, this is a work session. We're going to spend a few minutes starting out talking about some things that we believe to be true about this and to give this whole thing some context. But if we say something that doesn't make sense, or if you want to question it. Ask us questions, and we'll get down to discussing whatever you want to talk about. So interrupt us at any time. We're not fragile. Basically, so to put a little bit of context around this, why are we here? Christine is exactly right. We're here because this conversation started about a 20-year-old cracked sidewalk. And back in 2020, we wrote a note to the village and said, hey, just wanted to let you know that sidewalk out front is getting to the point it's going to need some repairs. It happens to be most visible to us because we see it every day, but if somebody falls and gets hurt on it, we're probably all going to hear about it. And so we got a reply back at that time. Council basically said, directed Rohit to tell us, basically, village doesn't have ownership of the property or the road, which is a bit ironic. We'll come back to that in a little bit. But so we said, okay, fine. If you don't want to deal with it now, we had no basis to push it. It's certainly not our sidewalk. It's not within our property limits, so we just let it go. Then again, that time went by, and we got busy doing other things, and this spring, one of our board members said, you know, that thing continues to get a little bit worse all the time. We're going to have to do something, and so we wrote another note to the village. And this time, Christina said, you know, we probably ought to talk about this. We're going to have a meeting, and it's going to be on the agenda, and you're welcome to come and give comment. We did. It was, I think, May 9th, as I recall. And so we brought, a couple of us came up and made comment on that, and we talked about that sidewalk. And the only purpose of this map is that everybody sort of understands that the sidewalk that we're talking about starts down there at the Marvin Creek Mansion Homes, basically, and runs along the north side of that road, up Tom Short Road Extension, all the way up to Ray Road. And Marvin owns a little piece of that, I think, in there somewhere, just the inside of the roundabout for whatever reason. The rest of that's DOT roadway. And Amber Meadows line starts in the middle of McBride Creek, which is in the middle of that bridge up there to your right, to my right anyway. And Tullamore hooks into it and has the lower end of that. So that's what we're talking about. And to be honest, when we came in here on May 9th to talk about it, we heard sort of the same thing. We left, and Jamie, we sat and listened to your discussion afterwards, and Marvin said basically, not our problem. So we went home, disappointed a little bit, but we went home. Next morning, we got a call from Christina and an email, and it said, why don't you come talk to us? We got some news you're probably not going to like. Somebody had diligently searched some documents and had found one reference to sidewalk repair, and that was couched in an agreement, which was done as a part of an agreement for a permanent conservation area in conjunction with an ordinance that Marvin has to do that. It was a 14-page document, and it goes on at some length. Sidewalk is buried in there in one reference, in one paragraph that refers to Tom Short Road. And we can talk about that a little later, too. We have some doubts that Tom Short Road conversation even belongs in that document. It doesn't fit. It looks like it was added as an afterthought. The rest of the document is pretty much a cut and paste thing. Ours looks just exactly like Tullamore's looks. So anyway, we didn't like that conversation much. So we said when we got back to the board and we sat down, and that's the way HOAs operate, none of us are benevolent dictatorships. I wish I was, but it doesn't work that way. So we went back and talked to our board about it, and the board said, let's put some time into this. We started doing research, we started looking into it, we came up with a bunch of discussion things, and we talked to Christina back and forth about that over a long period of time. Bit of history. Some of you know all this, some of you may not know all this. Tom Short Road Extension was built as an access road for Marvin Creek. The plans are labeled for that. That's what it was built to do. It runs from Ray Road back to Marvin Creek. It was labeled an access road, and it was done in 2004. It was accepted by DOT in 2014 as a public road. Up until that time, it had operated as a private road owned by, I think, probably Longview Development, and I'm not sure who else had a part of that, but it was a private road until 2014. And then the discussion started about what it ought to look like. And I think those discussions were wrapped around the acceptance of the final plat, because Amber Meadows wasn't supposed to be Amber Meadows. Amber Meadows was supposed to be a business district. It was supposed to be commercial. And so there had to be some zoning changes and whatever to allow Pulte to build what we are. Tullamore was there. Tullamore started in 2013, but Amber Meadows was new. So these discussions about what this thing should look like were actually done, the minutes we found were done May 12th, 2015. There was a gentleman there who was a councilman, who ironically enough lived in Marvin Creek. He was a resident down there, and he seemed to be leading that discussion. It's an interesting discussion in a way because it speaks to how we got where we got as far as what Tom Short Road looks like. He had a vision for this thing, and his vision was Marvin needed an entrance. This is going to be our entrance to Marvin. I like the central medians. I like big central medians. I'd like to have them increased. You know, it can become a feature of this interest. It could grow to look like Colony Road in Charlotte, and on and on and on. And that was sort of it. Council voted on it and agreed, and that's what everybody decided to do, sort of from what we can find out, just about that simply at that meeting. They didn't have to do this. Council didn't have to do this. Tom Short Road is a functioning road. They could have just left it alone. They chose to do this. And I know none of you all were there. Maybe Mayor Polino was there. But it was a different council and a different time, and I get that, okay? We understand that. But it didn't have to be done. They could have just left it alone. Instead, they decided to make a grand entryway out of it, and so here's what we ended up with. We ended up with a median that's about 25 feet wide and 750 feet long, two sections of it. We got 750 feet of median. We now have, still alive after DOT did their work, we have 46 crepe myrtles in there, 248 holly bushes in there, and 82 abelias. That's 376 plants. We have a full-blown irrigation system that's not been on for the last couple of years, I will tell you, for various reasons having to do with the irrigation itself. It leaks like a sieve. It's old. That stuff was put in there almost 10 years ago now. And those drip lines are plastic. And it is what it is in the sunshine. Anyway, that's what got done. Like I said, it's a bit ironic. That road runs right into Marvin Creek. That's what it was made to do. If I were that councilman, I probably would have recused myself, but that's not our discussion point today. That's neither here nor there. But he didn't see any problem with talking about doing this and laying the cost off on two neighborhoods of 44 homes each. Nobody even seemed to talk about that. There's no evidence of pre-planning. There's no evidence of logical cost allocation or reason that that was all done. Was the median, I've heard the argument that said, well, maybe the median was done that way because it was expected to be a business. That might have worked before that meeting, but by 2015, the final plat was being discussed. Everybody knew what Amber Creek was going to be. Didn't seem to make a bit of difference. So anyway, Tullamore existed, by the way, at the time. They'd been there for 2 years. Tanya had moved in. They didn't know what they were getting. Then they sold her a house. Tanya had moved in, and they had people there. Nobody talked to them about it or asked them about it either. It just happened. Anyway, that's the way the cost was assigned. We think it's a bit arbitrary. We think it's totally unfair. And we think it probably shouldn't have been done that way to begin with. Okay, Tom Short Road maintenance agreements thereafter got signed in 2015. So that brings us to now and the discussion we've been having for, these many months with a very patient Christina, I will tell you. She's put up with a lot of questions and answer sessions. We still think the arguments are unenforceable, and we have various reasons for thinking that, and I know Chaplain has given you folks his opinion on what he thinks about those agreements, which is fine. But we're not sure those agreements are enforceable at all for several reasons, and Tanya will get into some of those, and I won't spend time with the legal niceties of it now because we're also going to talk about these agreements a little bit later in more detail. So we think the agreements are flawed. Secondly, we think the process was flawed. We don't think that it was thought out at all. We don't see it as being expedient at all. We don't see any practical, logical reason it was done that way. Tom Short Road is turned into a very major public roadway. Why do you take costs associated with keeping up a public roadway and lay them off on two neighborhoods who happen to be there? It's no better reason than that. And we saw no evidence of any discussion or projected costs or pre-planning in any way about that.
Hold on, Gary.
Oh.
Austin, this isn't flipping. Thanks. Oh.
Okay.
Hunter,
Geez, I just rolled by that. Anyway, Marvin Creek's 387 homes, Canterfield Creek's 100 homes, although Canterfield doesn't front directly onto Tom Short Road, they adjoin it.
But they
Amber
use it.
Meadows and Tullamore, I said Canterfield? Yeah, Amber Meadows and Tullamore are 44 homes each. So we think there's some problems with that. Next, we think the intent of the process is flawed, basically, because you have the question of taxation and equitability. And make no mistake, the cost of that road right away is a tax. If it walks like a tax, looks like a tax, quacks like a tax, it's a tax. Municipalities are set up, and we all took civics in high school. Municipalities are set up with a given amount of power and a given amount of duty and responsibility. They have the power to levy taxes, and then they take those taxes and spend them for resident amenities and useful things that their people need. This is a tax. It's money used to support a public road right-of-way. And yet it wasn't treated like a tax. It was laid off as an assignment to two little neighborhoods. There's no tax equity here. There is a uniform taxation code in North Carolina that says you can tax people. You can tax them basically for whatever you want, but you got to tax them the same. We're being singled out, and it is a tax. Finally, we have no evidence that there's any other Marvin communities that have an agreement anything like these agreements. Hunter found a couple that he sent to us, but for various reasons, they don't really compare. And so we don't think there's anything like that really. Lastly, and this is an intangible thing, this process doesn't look like Marvin to us. We sell an image from Marvin. It's a village, and it's a place where people want to come and raise kids and have houses and live here. And looking at how this was done, it doesn't look like we think something Marvin would have done. All that said, we have no desire to duck out from under this stuff. We're willing to be good citizens on this. We're willing to talk and negotiate about the issues, which we'll do later. We've even already said the curbside to our property line for both Amber Meadows and Tullamore is our front yard. It's our community's front yard. It belongs to the state, but we understand that responsibility, and we're not trying to run from that responsibility. The only thing I would tell you need to know about that, it costs us about $7,000 a year, we think. And we can split that up if you like. It's irrigation, it's pine straw, it's 9 months of mowing and trimming and the number of hours they put out there. And in the first place, before we can resume any of that, we got to fix the damage that DOT did to our irrigation system, which we don't know exactly how much it is and won't know until we dig into the ground. But we think that's probably going to be in the neighborhood of $2,000 to $4,000, and we've talked to our irrigation people about doing that. So we're more than happy to talk about this. The question of doing this as a contingency comes up. We question whether that's practical and if it's going to gain us anything, and there are problems with that. And part of the problems have to do with us. We've spent many, many hours on this, and so have you. If we start doing this again a year from now, if this is contingent, and let's say the contingency doesn't come through, you're going to be dealing with the same issues with different people. Quite likely on my board, you're going to have different people. I may or may not be around. There are things that are going to change. And to us, it's much more expedient to fix it now and sort of get it over and done with and go forward into the future with whatever happens in the future. We don't know any way to predict that. Tanya's got a couple of things she wants to bring up
right.
and tell them more specific things.
Hi, Council. Tanya McCauley. I'm the president of the Tullamore HOA. Thanks for having us today. I just want to recap a little bit of what Gary just went through. I want to start by talking about this Tullamore maintenance agreement, and the Amber Meadows maintenance agreement is pretty much identical to the Tullamore maintenance agreement. This agreement was signed in 2013. It's approximately 15 pages long, and in this entire agreement, there's only 3 sentences that talk about Tom Short Road. 3 sentences. These 3 sentences were stuck in this document at the last minute. How do I know that? Because I went back and I read the village council meeting minutes from 2013. Because I was like, what the heck? Why are these just thrown in there like this? What was council thinking? Well, the only way to know is to go back and read the meeting minutes. Council was thinking that this road needed to be maintained by Pulte and/or the HOA until the state took it over. They say it plain as day in those 2013 minutes. So they were like, let's stick this in that agreement to make sure Pulte or the HOA maintains that road until the state takes it over. It wasn't have them maintain the road in perpetuity. That doesn't even make any sense. Why would an HOA maintain a road that's outside of their property? Imagine somebody coming to your neighborhood and saying, guess what? Guess what, Innisbrook? Guess what, Firethorn? You guys are gonna maintain Marvin Road. All the landscaping up and down it, everything to do with it. You guys would be like, what? You're crazy. That doesn't even make any sense. In this document, there's a statement of purpose in here. In the very beginning, it's the statement of purpose of why this document was drawn up. And on page 1, it says that Tullamore will maintain different areas, it explains, and roads in Tullamore, consisting of 49.64 acres. Guess what? 49.64 acres does not include Tom Short Road. So this agreement is not valid. It's not accurate. It's flawed. It also says that what we maintain is outlined on Exhibit H. Guess what? Look at Exhibit H. Exhibit H, nowhere's Tom Short Road. Nowhere's Tom Short Road. Not one exhibit in this document shows Tom Short Road being maintained by Tullamore. Now, in the budget at the end of this document, it outlines everything that we're supposed to maintain and how much it's gonna cost. There's a budget. It says, you're gonna maintain this, it's gonna cost you this much, this much, this much. Nowhere does it say Tom Short Road and how much that's gonna cost you to maintain. Because that language was just thrown in there by council in 2013 as we gotta just make sure that Pulte maintains this road until the state takes it over, so it doesn't look like crap, and that the state will take it over. There is no other neighborhood, as Gary said, in Marvin that is expected to maintain a road outside of its HOA. There is no other neighborhood in Marvin that is expected to maintain their sidewalk, a sidewalk on a public road outside of its HOA. Yeah, we maintain the sidewalks in our HOA, but not outside of our HOA. We asked Hunter for all the maintenance agreements in Marvin. I went through the maintenance agreements to see if other neighborhoods did this. No, you guys don't require any other neighborhoods but Tullamore and Amber Meadows to do this. The two smallest neighborhoods in Marvin, we have 44 homes. The two smallest. The 3 sentences I talked about in this document that say Tom Short Road, it just says Tom Short Road. It doesn't say what part of Tom Short Road Tullamore will maintain, where Tom Short Road. There's no map. There's no way to know what part of Tom Short Road. So do we say all of Tom Short Road? Do we say just the Tom Short Road in front of our neighborhood? Without a map or a description, no one knows. It's extremely vague and unclear. Let's see. So once the state took control over the road in 2014, Marvin and Pulte no longer had control over that road. The state now owned the road. So you can't go make us do things that you don't even have control over as Marvin. Marvin doesn't own the road, the state owns the road. Not only that is, Marvin didn't get any permits to put these landscaping, nor did Pulte put this landscaping up and down Tom Short Road, nor did they get any encroachment agreements with the state to be able to do any of this. It was all just done just because they wanted to. Nobody got permission from the state to do it, and they just did it. And now they're trying to get us to maintain it, even though they don't even have control over the road. And they didn't. And so then in 2015, so 2014, the state takes the road. 2015, council decides to make Tom Short Road the entrance to Marvin, right? Gary talked about that. He said, by expanding the medians, putting hundreds of plants and trees and stuff on the road, and they decided, oh, we'll give it to the two smallest neighborhoods in Marvin. They'll maintain it. And we got a sign, actually. We have a sign on the bridge. As you enter Tom Short Road, the sign on the bridge says, the Village of Marvin. That's our entrance. Look how beautiful this is gonna look. And guess what? These two little neighborhoods, they're gonna maintain it. How great is that? Why could council do that? Tullamore was in existence. I lived there in that time. But Pulte owned the HOA. Pulte owned the HOA, and Pulte was building Amber Meadows. So they made a side agreement with Pulte, council and Pulte. We'll pull Tullamore in. We don't go to the residents of Tullamore and ask them if that's okay. We don't have to. Pulte owns the HOA right now. We don't have to do anything. Who cares about all the residents living in there at the moment? We're not gonna ask them. Of course we're not. Do you think any of them are gonna say, yeah, let's maintain a road outside of our HOA? No, they're not going to. I mean, our CCRs, our governing documents of our HOA say we cannot spend money on things outside of our HOA. It has to be used for the common area inside of our HOA. So they made a side agreement, and that's where we are today. Not sure why they thought they could make agreements anyway. I mean, they could make agreements, but why they could make them without getting encroachment agreements or permits or anything from the state, because it's a state road. It's not Marvin's road. So, lastly, why does Amber Meadows 2015 agreement have the same language as Tullamore's 2013 agreement? It was just a cut and paste, you can see. The documents are so identical, they just cut and paste that language in, not even a care or thinking. But Marvin still had no access to the roads right away. They couldn't have made these agreements legally. They can't just you can't just make two neighborhoods do something on a road you don't have permission to do. You have to get permission from the state first. Just because you have an agreement, it doesn't mean that agreement is a legal agreement, and it doesn't mean that it was a mindful agreement at the time. These agreements were made by a prior council and a builder without care of the financial burden it would place on its own tax-paying Marvin neighborhood residents. You all have the ability today to make this right. Thank you.
So now we need some input from you guys. You've been very patient with us. We've written letters, which you all have on record. Throw that last slide up, will you, please? And you've been very patient this morning, and you've heard all of our input on that, tangible and otherwise. So we need to know where council is. I think everybody agrees the documents are a mess. Nobody thinks they are pristine. So we'll say, okay, maybe that's a given. But we've got to go from there. I mean, and the day we quit talking is the day we lose progress. So this is the last one of those days that I think you guys have scheduled. So hopefully we'll get some input back from you. And we're willing to talk with you as long as you want to talk. We'll go into the red line agreements or whatever. Bottom line is you didn't screw this up. We know that. But you're also the only ones that can fix it. And we can kick it down the road, just ignore it or whatever, pretend it's not there. But the fact is these documents are real and they're not going to go anywhere. And one of these days they're going to cause more trouble than they're going to cause now. And it may be totally different people, as I said, doing this. So these items are all inputs. We'd like these entered into the record if you can. These are all things that we've already written to you. You've got copies of these, so they're easy to find. And basically, the rest of our day is yours. We'll do whatever you want us to do. But thank you very much for
Yes,
this.
thank you.
So, can I go?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it. We know this has been a lot on everybody. You guys, staff, us. We definitely want to figure out a solution, a compromise between everybody. So I appreciate you guys being here, and then we're going to figure this. We're going to come to some, I don't want to talk about it anymore. So we're going to come to some solution today. But with that being said, I think we're going to move into closed session, and then talk to Chaplain, and then we'll come out and we'll do some dialogue back and forth and nail this down, figure out what we're going to do so that we can all put it to bed. Because I agree, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I know you guys don't want to talk about it anymore. I know staff doesn't want to talk about it anymore. But we're going to come up with some sort of equitable solution that makes sense to everybody.
Okay?
Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
No, yes, of course. And again, thank you guys. So I'm going to make a motion to move into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A3 to consult with the attorney retained by the public body to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
We'll be back. Take a break, get some coffee. No, I gotta hard stop as well. I gotta get my hair did today.
You gotta get your
Go pick us up some donuts over at Dunkin' Donuts.
If you're running to Dunkin' Donuts, though, we'll.
Fully. Ju-
Let's do that when we're trail walking.
Do I hit that? Do I hit that?
No, they're never, we're going over here.
Upgrade to class.
Did you get another dog?
Do I hit that?
Yeah, it's fine. You can afford 99 cents.
I feel like Jeff Goldblum. Help me. Help me. I guess I do it. Help me. Sounds like a good idea. Okay, I guess not.
That actually might charge your personal card. I just realized that. It's 99 cents. If you wanna do that, you can. Or we can work and clear out stuff later. If
You did something the last time. It's okay.
Just let me know, if you want me to help clear out.
We can worry about tomorrow or something.
Oh, we're using the other room now.
I just thought of you when I saw that.
Grab my water.
I mean, I do, I read everything, are you kidding me? My dad would whoop my ass if I didn't.
Yes, she does. She reads everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I guess who would be the presenter?
That's my biggest downfall. My ADHD is, it makes it difficult for me to stay on task to read.
Well, I went through all that last night, and I went, oh my God. And it was like, and again, you know, it's like, let's go to basics. It started with a sidewalk. And my issue was, seriously, cantilevered sidewalks. I teach 70-year-old men and women how to ride motorcycles. Come on, come on. Yeah. Yeah, I'll,
When Joe gets back, that's all we're missing, right? When Joe gets back, we'll make a motion to excuse you.
okay, thank you.
Still got 5 minutes.
I'm always like this. If I could go barefooted the rest of my life, I would. There are no cameras under the desk.
Thank God. Thank goodness for us.
I remember,
Not for us. It is so cold in here. Like, it is freezing. Christine, what's this at? Hey, hey, hey.
How'd you like the house to stay?
It's set on just right.
So, I actually like the other two houses a lot better. It was, I mean, it was nice and it was pretty, and it was laid out well, but
We need to open back up the,
okay,
reconvene.
then we're good. Okay.
All right, we're going to reconvene into open session.
All right, Bob, you good to go for a few minutes?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So,
Start off with thanks.
I ended with thanks, but thank you guys again. So, we hope you're happy with what we've come up with. This all started with sidewalks. I know it got into more than just sidewalks. And I hate that previous councils have put us in a position that wasn't consistent with what the village typically does for other neighborhoods. So that's unfortunate. We need to get it across the board. I hate saying it's not fair because life's not fair and we all have to get over it, but it's not fair. We want to try to remedy the situation. Not Joe's fault because he didn't get a vote. So just had to say that.
The time I don't want the vote.
Just had to say that. So, okay, so what we've come up with, and we know that we've got the red line version from Amber Meadows. Tullamore didn't give us anything, but we're basically going to try to do the same for both, okay? First, to start off, we're going to nullify the Tom Short landscape maintenance agreement, which gets rid of your medians and the Canterfield Creek subdivision, main side, okay? With that being said, that it is a DOT road, so DOT will maintain that right-of-way. It may not look very nice because they don't maintain it very well. Okay, so that's the first thing. So we're gonna nullify that Tom Short landscape maintenance agreement for both subdivisions, both neighborhoods. The Village of Marvin is going to maintain the sidewalks on Tom Short from Tullamore, closest to Marvin Creek, down to the end of Amber Meadows, correct? Towards the bridge, okay? The village will take over the sidewalks. The village will also pay for the repairs. We're not asking you guys to do any of that. We're gonna ask you guys to maintain directly adjacent to your respective subdivisions, Amber Meadows and Tullamore, which is consistent with what we have other neighborhoods do, okay? So we're going to redo the maintenance plan and maintenance agreements. We're gonna do the same for both of you guys. So kind of going through, I guess we'll go through the redlined version. Chaplain, stop me if I'm missing something or if I'm not saying it correctly. We are gonna leave in 1A, because if trees are diseased in front, you gotta replace them. They're your responsibility. We are going to change your stormwater, which is to 1C. That's fine. You guys, if NCDEQ has you guys do something, you guys have to maintain it, but we're not gonna make you come out and do additional inspections.
One thing, we did
Correct?
just, yeah, it had all this language about an engineer coming every year in October and making a report. The village doesn't do that. That hasn't been done. We did just add language that you'll comply with any village rules and regulations, which is just basic language, but we agree there's no need to have language that you're getting a third-party engineer to come in when nobody's doing it. And in 1A, there were two
I
sections.
know, I missed it, sorry. I was going
Yeah.
back, sorry, I missed it. So you have stricken the installation of benches, water fountains, signs. We're leaving that in?
No, we're gonna take that out.
Will they have it stricken?
Yes, we're gonna go ahead and strike that. It
Okay,
really, it
so we're
really
striking
doesn't
that.
have any bearing, because it was
Already
directly
done.
responsibility of the developer, but to clean it up, got no problem with
Taking it
striking
out,
that.
okay. So we're good taking that out. Internal roads, we're gonna have it read, the internal road system has been conveyed to and accepted by the Village of it should say Village of Marvin for maintenance and ownership. Okay,
Yeah,
so,
and that's changing the last sentence of the first paragraph. Because
Okay.
it has all these, that they'll be designed to NCDOT standards and
yeah,
and dedicated to DOT, but they've already been dedicated to the village.
we're just simplifying that whole section there.
So there's no DOT reference.
Okay, so then section 4, maintenance plan. I know that there was some wording here that you, Gary, especially weren't happy with, so we're gonna try to clean it up a little bit for you. So it's gonna read, all turf, plantings, irrigation, and monumentation in the Tom Short Road right-of-way directly adjacent to the property will be maintained by the homeowners association. Okay, to any extent, any trees located within the Tom Short right-of-way directly adjacent to the property, the HOA will not be responsible to maintain. So if any trees are in the right-of-way, is that right? I said it correctly. If any trees are in the right-of-way, the HOA will not be responsible to maintain, okay? Then it goes on to, these items shall require annual pruning, fertilization, pest, disease control, mulch. Plant material within these areas will be replaced by the homeowners association if they become diseased, damaged, with plant materials, species, and sizes to be determined at the discretion of the homeowners association. The sidewalks within the Tom Short right-of-way directly adjacent to the property will be maintained by the village. The homeowners association and village will each obtain any necessary encroachment agreements from DOT to allow the maintenance obligations set forth herein. The village will assist with facilitation of NCDOT encroachment agreements. Nothing contained herein will be construed to affect or modify, well, we're getting rid of that. We're getting rid of
That sentence
this.
will now be deleted.
Yes,
Because
perfect.
there were two different
Yep.
agreements.
Yep, okay, so we're good. Okay, so that will be the maintenance plan section that you totally redlined, but we've cleaned it up. And then the last one that you want, redlined,
11B.
25 foot.
yeah, so the 25-foot preservation strip between Amber Meadows and Tullamore's, our ordinances require that, so we have to have it. That's consistent across the board. So that has to stay in. And then that's it.
Can I state something for explanation? The landscape maintenance agreement was different, and the reason that it was there was to get you to go into the medians and across the street to Canterfield. You already have provisions in the original maintenance agreement, not the landscape maintenance agreement, but the one that we're amending, and that was clarified. So you, like other neighborhoods, will be maintaining everything, the vegetation up to the road, except for trees planted in the right-of-way. And that's why the landscape agreement is not needed, because you're not going to be maintaining the medians or going across the street. And that's why I think y'all two were probably the only ones that had that. Everybody else addressed it in the maintenance plan and maintenance agreement, so now it's just sent to that. A lot simpler, but you'll still maintain you'll still have probably irrigation, grass, mulch. You maintain and make it look pretty, but you don't need the other agreement because you're no longer going to be in the median and you're not going to be across the street, which was different.
And the fact that the state will maintain some of that for now until we take it over is probably more of an incentive to encourage the vote on the bond, because that then will help us take care of all these kinds of issues and stuff.
And I just want to,
Correct.
I know they've already said this once, but I just want to reiterate, the standard of maintenance from DOT is not very strong, so just so you all know that. Anything above and beyond that, if you guys want to do, that's great. But I know with our roundabouts, the right-of-way, it's 4 to 5 times a year. So I'm just letting you know, that would be the standard of maintenance.
Well,
We'll send it to you.
we'll get all that cleaned up.
We'll send it to you.
First off, thank you for coming in, and thank you presenting. But as we walk through all of this, I think what you'll find and what we wanted to accomplish is we all agreed that these agreements are really messed up. They were muddy at best, and all we wanted to do is make sure that it's consistent with all the other neighborhoods and everything. So we're just trying to bring consistency and clean up someone else's mess, which unfortunately we're finding we have to do a lot of, but that's okay, that's our job. But we just want to make sure that it's consistent, so everything that you see that we've done, I want you to feel as though and know that it's consistent with other neighborhoods, and we just want to make it right for y'all.
I will like to add, on behalf of your residents and both your neighborhoods, thank you both, because
Yes.
I will tell you, Jamie and I both have been on boards, HOA boards, and it's a thankless job. You guys have done a lot of work and presented very well, so we appreciate what you've done, as well as staff that has taken all the time in the council, but we're hoping not to discuss this ever again.
Yeah, and I've got to leave to a private, commitment, but I totally agree with what we're all saying and what Jamie has reiterated, is to be consistent. And that's our job, to fix problems. This was a problem to fix.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to excuse Bob at 11:49.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we'll get you guys this language. Do you have any questions? Or does this sound good to you? Nope, no questions, Gary. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm just kidding.
Gary?
Oh, Gary, come up,
Can you
Gary.
come to the
Gary,
mic
come
so
up to
that-
the mic so it's recorded.
Yeah. There you go.
To back you up just a second, Chaplain, on the maintenance plan agreement 1A, what did you decide to do with that? I mean, if you look at the red line version, and I will tell you why we put that in there. This is a common sense deletion, simply because that language was put in there, A, to protect the village, to protect the village and Amber Meadows during the construction phase, and we all get that. But B, and Christina knows what I'm going to say here, she's walked it with me, she walked the trail. Amber Meadows, and Tullamore doesn't have this particular issue, but Amber Meadows, everything behind our retaining wall into McBride Creek is in a 200-foot buffer. That's Corps of Engineer area to McBride Creek. That's a wetlands, qualified as a wetlands. We can't do anything in there. So when I redlined that last paragraph, basically, the last two sentences to that, it's not only the fact that I can't imagine Marvin doing that, to be honest, going through and inspecting trees and expecting us to do that, but B, we can't really do that. So that's a sort of a common sense extraction, and I don't know any other way to get around it.
Well, there are that is the main, that's the interior tree mitigation, but there's other areas, and if there are trees, it's just saying that you can request an inspection for diseases and storm damage. And then the other sentence is, diseased or damaged vegetation shall be removed and replaced following notice of the village. Of course, the village isn't going to order you to do something if it's an area you can't get in, but there could be other areas. And this is consistent language because they do want the authority in all these maintenance plans. If there's a diseased tree, that it should be replaced.
So it's not
And it's been
aimed
in
at-
there for years without causing problems, but there could be trees in other areas, and I don't know all of your, I know you have that one main area, but you could have other
We do.
pocket areas. So we want that, if they get diseased, it's mainly the second sentence, but the other is a little proactive. You hear of some of these diseases coming through that are affecting certain species of trees. We want to be able to keep that in to be proactive, and it's in all
Okay.
of them.
Well, when it got to the point where it said, these areas shall remain undisturbed, I thought, well, that's a pretty logical place to cut all this off, considering Amber Meadows layout. I hear your point. There may be some other areas that you might want to come into at one point in time or not.
And what
All
I
right.
heard,
As long as we all agree you're not actually going to make us come in and annually inspect that wetlands and look for diseased trees.
no, it's said
It
upon
ain't gonna
request. And, we already cut out the storm drainage because we knew that wasn't happening, and we're trying to be pragmatic, but
Yeah,
if something happens or something changes, we want to have that ability. If we think that the red buds are getting diseased one year because we have the county arborist tells us to look throughout, we want that ability to be
Yeah.
proactive.
all right.
And what I heard from this board was consistency, and that helped y'all a
Yeah.
lot, because I didn't
Well,
have to come out and
And the
argue
only
some of the
thing
legal.
I would ask any board to consider, any council to consider, and this goes for Tullamore and us, those are literally, in those areas, we've got like 8 acres back there. There are thousands of trees, literally, in that forested area. It's a natural area. It's always been a natural area, should always remain a natural area. If we get real picky in there, it'll get more detailed than you'd ever guess. But I understand what you're trying to address. I get that. And we can probably live with that. Hell, I'm 75. I'll be dead in a few years. Okay.
Well, we're happy to do this again. Thank you guys for your time. And what I would say is we would appreciate you guys letting your neighborhoods know what has transpired, that kind of the maintenance will have adjusted for, that little strip. And it may not look as nice because DOT is going to be maintaining it, but then you should tell them that in order to make it look nice again, they need to vote for the GO bond. So we would appreciate your support and kind of you being our ambassadors to get that done, because it's gonna be, what that bond will do for the village is gonna be huge. So if you guys could help us out with that, that would be awesome.
We shall, we hear you. One last thing I will say, we'll get a copy of this language and all that. We have our own process we have to go through. I mean, the board does have to approve it.
Sure.
Our side of it gets a little bit stickier than Tullamore's only because of the way this thing was built, and you'll appreciate this. They incorporated this stuff into our CCRs, okay? So we're talking about, I have to get this approved by, in accordance to 47F, if it's in your CCRs, the only way you can amend your CCRs is to get it approved by 67% of your residents. And I don't mean the one that shows up. We've got to get it approved, and I think we can do that, but it's going to take us a little bit of time. We're going to have like a community vote on this thing, if you understand what I'm driving at.
Yep.
And that's just the way ours happens to be built.
It just may take you guys a little bit longer to get it approved, and that's fine. Like, we're
Okay.
gonna authorize the manager, Christina, to work on getting all this language and agreements put together, and we will get them over to you guys, and then you can schedule it and do what you guys need to do on your end, but
And we won't dawdle. We'll call a special community meeting. We'll schedule a meeting up at the church or something
or
and
have it here.
Hey,
You
Chap.
can always
we
rent
could
this
do it
space.
here, actually. This would be really cozy.
Yeah,
Chaplain.
So we'll call a special meeting but we're going to have to actually do like almost a door-to-door neighborhood vote to get 67%. We got to do it that way.
Well, it just says that the two agreements are incorporated by reference.
Yeah,
So the maintenance agreement is still gonna be
referenced
incorporated.
and be referenced.
And the other one is still incorporated by reference, but it's getting extinguished. You need to get your own counsel and think about that, but it's still,
That's a good point, Gary. I don't think you have to change the
maybe not. Well, you don't. Yours aren't incorporated by reference.
I don't think you do either.
Maybe not. I hope not. Life's a whole lot easier if the
Yep.
board can make this decision.
Yeah.
They can work on that. We'll work on getting the language
yeah.
situated. We'll put the agreements back in your consent agenda so you can see it one last time, get it approved. I may have to come back to you all for a budget amendment on the sidewalk repairs. I think I can make it happen, but if so, I'll just throw that in the consent. We'll go ahead and order the start of that work in the next couple of months, so we'll start seeing those repairs happen. Maybe some additional irrigation damage. I'm not 100% sure. They will try their best not to damage any irrigation, but it is a real possibility.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to make a motion to authorize the village manager to terminate the Tom Short Road landscape agreements with the Tullamore and Amber Meadows homeowners associations and approve the amendments to the maintenance plans with the modifications discussed.
I thought we were gonna, I think you're gonna bring it back now for a consent agenda. And that was what we had talked about.
Oh, okay. So,
I think you,
okay, go do it then. How about that? Okay.
yeah, instruct the manager to,
Do we need a motion to instruct you guys to fix it? Okay,
So then that'll be put in the consent agenda?
yep,
yeah, sorry, we just
Sorry.
changed direction out here.
sorry. I heard you say that and I didn't listen, sorry. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay, make a motion to adjourn at 11:58 a.m.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.